Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two top stories. The first is with regards to security threats in the country, something, of course, that we have seen previously as well. But most recently now, India Khan in the terrorist attack attacking the police station. And this is important, especially with reference to what has happened previously as well and what has been cited as a major cause of security concerns, especially with regards to the upcoming elections and in the days prior to that. And this is something that we've seen last month as well, in which unfortunately 6 policemen have lost their lives, 10 terrorists have also been killed. This is important in reference to what we have seen in KP and Balochistan in particular, and the way that this is going to impact peace and security in the country. And we're going to take a closer look at what investigation is underway and what sort of aspects will be taken in with regards to the aftermath of this attack, especially in order to secure the area and then to also prevent further attacks in the upcoming days to the elections and on the election day as well. That is going to be our focus for our first segment with reference to what is going on, particularly in these two provinces and then in the country. Our next segment is going to take a look at the, of course, elections. The 8th of February is the date for the elections as per the schedule, something that has been reiterated by the leadership and the ECP for quite some time now. And as we now stand on the 5th of February, this is something that has put an end to all of the concerns earlier with regards to any possible delay in the polls. We also know that ballot papers have been printed and they are also currently being moved across the country. The decision, of course, with regards to different political parties and how they're going to be performing with regards to the electoral campaigns is a question that we're going to see with just a few days left to the elections. How well have the political parties been able to so far put across their stance to the public and been able to hold the kind of public gathering and clout that is required before the elections is something that we'll look closely. In the same way, we also are going to be taking a look at the different political parties' promises that they've been making to the public and whether or not any party is fully prepared for what lies ahead post-elections in terms of running the government. There are also, of course, concerns with regards to clean, clear and transparent elections and what, of course, has been looked into by the ECP as well, with different political parties blaming each other for vote buying, including that what has happened with regards to PMLN and PPP issues for which the ECP has already sent to both the parties. This is also important with reference to, of course, how the process is going to move forward on the election day in light of the security threats as discussed earlier, and also in light of the EMS, which some ROs have talked about and have complained. Again, the ECP has reiterated that this is something that is clear, but what preparations are put in place to ensure that it is in fact going to be a smooth process and is going to ensure transparency in the country is what we're going to take a closer look at in our next segment. For this and more, as always in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And for our first segment, we've also been joined by Qamar, Cheema, as political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us and being part of the discussion. And I'll start with you, Qamar Sahab, with reference to, of course, the security threats that exist and what has been going on in the country for quite some time now. It's unfortunate that we have, of course, seen that there is an expectance of such attacks. But we also, of course, have heard from the security forces and the administration that they're fully ready and fully prepared to meet any untoward incident and to, of course, prevent these terrorist activities. But in the aftermath of what has happened in TI Khan, what measures do you think are needed to be put in place to secure those areas and, of course, the sensitive locations in KP and Balochistan in particular in light of the upcoming elections?
Thank you very much for inviting me. I think the Pakistan is facing two kind of threats or two kind of militants to whom with the Pakistani authorities or the Pakistan is fighting. The first, there are faith-based militants, and then there are definitely ethno-based militants who draw their energy from ethnicity. So we have been fighting with both these kind of militant organizations. In Balochistan, if you remember, there are ethnic groups and also some of the religious groups are there. But on the Afghanistan side, Pakistan is fighting these kind of terrorist groups who are mostly religiously motivated. Perhaps on both the sides, different strategies are required. Immediately, I think what we need is that since we are facing elections and the entire country is is celebrating, enjoying, and having this election festival, by the way, where the political parties and everyone is into this mood that who will win and who will form the government. So I think the law enforcement and the people of the Pakistan, they have to be vigilant and create awareness in this situation. So, in my understanding, first, obviously, to fight with these ethno-separatists, the militants, we need to be careful in terms of installing more forces, particularly in Balochistan, because I was looking in the information which was coming from Balochistan that 80% of the polling stations are sensitive there. So I think the security needs to be beefed up. That's the immediate solution. And similarly, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and all these areas, the security needs to be beefed up again, because Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or Daesh Khorasan, they can attack. But in the longer term, I personally believe that the Pakistan needs what we call de-radicalization measures. Immediately, we need to beef up the security in both these areas to fight these two different kinds of terrorist organizations. And then I think when the next government comes, then we should go for de-radicalization plans. Either they could be in terms of religiously de-radicalization plans, and similarly and politically we need to mainstream and we need to encourage the groups, particularly those who are ethno-separatist movement in Balochistan. I think that can help us in the long run.
Cheema Sahab, you have rightly pointed out that one aspect is, of course, the religious motivation. But don't you think that there are elements sitting in the obviously western provinces within Afghanistan, talking about Nuristan, Kunard and Nangarhar? In these provinces, of course, there are people who are doing all of these activities at the hands of foes on the eastern border. I'm talking about Indian Raw. They have a history of obviously utilizing them against Pakistan. And at this hour, when we are heading towards a fresh election, a process, a democratic process, we are seeing that these sort of activities, they are at a rise. Do you think that, of course, somebody behind TTP is too curious about getting involved in Pakistan's democratic process?
I think that's a very valid observation and question, but I personally believe that obviously first we have to look at the reasons why these kind of militants are there. And why we couldn't counter them so far. And secondly, yes, then obviously, the adversaries, or particularly in the eastern border and the western border, they have been they have been using all this instability, and they have been using these militant groups, and they are using against Pakistan. So, for instance, the state apparatus, those who had to engage with Afghanistan, they couldn't achieve those objectives because maybe we couldn't understand the Taliban post 15th August 2021. I think we failed to understand what is their mindset and how we have to engage them. And then the last resort, just recently, we had to rely on the religious diplomacy, where the incumbent head of the JUIF visited Afghanistan. So I believe we have to address the internal challenges first. We have to take care of our issues first, and then obviously those who are adversaries, be it India or be it some of the elements in Afghanistan, we have to challenge them and we have to counter them. We have been doing in the past, but primarily I think somewhere we fail to understand the developments after the fall of Kabul, and how the new government in Kabul, how they are going to make their plans for Pakistan and how they are going to move on. I think that's where we would have been prepared earlier, but we oversimplified the fall of Kabul,
Right,
that it will be
I'm glad, Cheema Saab, that you're talking about Kabul, because I want to also understand then with regards to how you're talking about focusing on internal security issues and threats, when they're so intricately linked to what exists outside the borders as well, especially with regards to the threat emerging from Kabul. How do we actually distinguish between the two, and then what sort of measures are required then in the absence of any real action from the Afghan Taliban regime to be able to protect Pakistan and to be able to protect the fact that there are no terrorist havens inside their country, that nobody uses their soil against Pakistan or any other territory? If that's not happening, then how do we move forward?
Well, I think we have to make the Afghan government realize that they are no more a non-state actor. Now they are running a government. They have an office in Kabul, and their ambassador in Beijing has given his credentials to President Xi Jinping. So they have to operate like a state. And I think for that matter, the way Pakistan has adopted an approach that we are going to go for a regional solution this time. So Pakistan is not going to go for a de jure recognition of the Taliban government the way we did back in 1996. But right now, what we are going to do is that we are going to take a unified regional approach where we are going to ask other countries to come up and see how we have to engage with other countries. I think the countries they feel hesitant in taking an initiative, and everybody wants to engage, but nobody wants to take a formal stance with them. So this is one thing, and I think this recent pressure on Afghan Taliban, where the Afghan businessmen, in fact, have pressurized the Afghan Taliban that's not how we can engage with Pakistan. You have to listen to the concerns of Pakistan, where the Tehreek-e-Taliban, which is a terrorist organization, you just cannot host it for long. You have to eliminate their networks. And so I think the pressure is going towards Afghanistan in terms that Pakistan asked for that illegal Afghan refugees shall go. And then some of the trade was stopped, some of the movement at the border was stopped. I think the message has gone to the Kabul, but in reality, more pressure from within Afghanistan needs to go to the Taliban regime. That with the neighbors, they have to act like sovereign, independent states, and they cannot host terrorist organizations.
Right, absolutely. But Farrukh, when we talk about terrorist threats or security concerns within Pakistan, and as Cheema Saab was earlier saying, also of course our priority is what goes on within our country and how we protect our own public from such security threats. And I want to then understand, in light of the most important day for the country that is just coming in just a couple of days, and then of course the fact that this has been something that Pakistan has already dealt with previously as well. How is it then that when we say that our security forces are fully prepared to deal with this threat, what measures does that mean for us at home, irrespective of whatever sort of threats that exist outside of Pakistan, and the kind of lack of capability or willingness from other parts outside of Pakistan to be able to give that kind of assurances that are needed. In the absence of that, what sort of measures need to be put in place, especially now with the upcoming elections and the fact that we are seeing such attacks?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. Let me first of all explain the problem to everyone who is listening, because at this moment it is very important to understand the lay of the land as well. For example, when you talk about Balochistan, Balochistan is roughly the half of Pakistan's territory, right? But what is the population? It is 1.2 million, only 1.2 million, right? And that is significant because the population then is sparsely, distributed. It is various centers are less populated and they are at a distance. So that becomes a securitization nightmare when you talk about ensuring that you have security on ground. What happens is that because there are routes, when we talk about the importance of beefing up security, what happens is that there are roads, certain security checkposts are placed on the roads, which would potentially hamper not only business but also commuting on the election day. So that becomes a huge challenge. Now let us also talk about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It is not as large in territory as Balochistan, but it has something like 40 million population and mostly mountainous area. In Balochistan also you have every kind of topography, but in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa it is mostly mountainous areas. So there also circumstances are such that it becomes quite evident that the possibility of infiltration is high. Now this D.I. Khan attack, what is the modus operandi? Who has been traditionally attacking our police? It is TTP repeatedly doing this after Pakistan's dialogue with them fell through. I don't agree with this imputation that we did not understand Afghan Taliban after their return. I think for one whole year Pakistan kept on coddling them, Pakistan kept on listening to their demands, and then that's how you ended up holding dialogues with TTP. And at that time the fatal mistake was made of bringing TTP back to our region, and that is when they actually grew their roots and they started attacking police. Now after that, of course, the government changed and the policy changed, and finally we are fighting them. But the best answer when it comes to lack of cooperation from Afghanistan Sana is you cannot control what goes on their territory. What you can do is harden your border, and that is something I will beg the authorities to do one day before the election, at least for 2 days. Please ensure that the border is as hard as possible. We have fenced, but it is still stuck around 98%. I think we have to actually close the rest of the gaps, even though Afghan Taliban keep on attacking, or their favorites in TTP keep on attacking it as well. The Afghan Taliban, we don't get them. Unfortunately, this is who they are. I have mentioned before in 2001, before 9/11, Pakistan's interior minister flew to Kabul and requested that Riaz Basra, a noted terrorist who was wanted for something like 40 murders, he is hiding in Kabul, please turn him over. And that at that time they actually told us that no, he is not in Afghanistan, even though we knew the GPS location of the man, right? So this is what they do. They refuse to see any religious terrorism hiding in their country. This is what they will keep on doing. On the election day, what I would actually suggest is to ensure 2 or 3 things. One, especially in a place like Balochistan, you cannot cover the whole land, right? What you can do is you can ensure the candidates are safe. Then the second thing is all the voting centers, polling booths, they are safeguarded as well. And then of course IBOs are important. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa also, the biggest thing is if you actually beef up security so much, then because of those nakas, because of those POs, then communication hampers. So you'll have to again do the same thing, and then we'll have to also pray that things pass okay.
Absolutely, and this is an important factor, Faisal, with reference to what sort of measure needs to be taken with regards to protecting the people and then also ensuring that they have access to the polling booths and they can actually go and vote. This is also something of concern in Balochistan also, that has already imposed a ban on public gatherings, and of course there are election campaigns that are continuing throughout the country. There is also concern with regards to the suspension of internet services. Has also been announced that will be done on certain polling booths in Balochistan and also prior to the elections. And while we understand that these are important measures for security, how do we ensure the balance that is needed to even give the public the kind of access that is required for them to turn up?
Yes, Sana, it's a very good question. And earlier, obviously, listening to Farrukh, I mean, he has elaborated it very detailed, in a very detailed manner. And I want to just, highlight a couple of more things, and that is related to, obviously, on the election day, of course, not only the election itself, but our security forces, they have to obviously, look into other aspects as well, especially the threats which are originating from within Afghanistan. They have to look at that as well, and internally, of course, they have to maintain law and order. And it is a day when there would be mass movements throughout Pakistan, and it is a kind of day where you would see the activity would be in every constituency of Pakistan, in every city of Pakistan, and in all of the provinces of Pakistan. So it's a mass movement day, and of course it's a very busy day for the security forces as well. At the same time, our intelligence agencies, they would be making sure that they don't leave a stone unturned in terms of making sure that their people, our people of Pakistan, they are safe. Earlier I was listening to Dr. Cheema, and he right at the end of his answer, he highlighted one very important aspect related to Afghan Taliban regime, in which he said that they need to make sure that their land, Afghanistan's land, is not being used against any of the neighboring countries. And I think he very smartly highlighted the pledges which were made by Afghan Taliban in Doha Accord. Of course, they maintained at that time that they will never be allowing their land to be used against any of the countries, neighboring countries, including Pakistan. And here we are still talking about, hiding places of TTP in Afghanistan. And it is not a secret that TTP and Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, they are hand and glove. And of course, we know that Afghan Taliban, they have a sort of recognition of this fact that TTP has always been standing with them against the American forces and NATO forces in Afghanistan. So right after the ouster of the NATO forces and American forces from Afghanistan, what they are trying to do is they are trying to give freedom to TTP in their own lands, and this is where they are getting nourished, and the access they create from different manners and different ways. And of course, there are few of the elements illegally staying in Pakistan. The illegal Afghan migrants who are in Pakistan, they facilitate them on certain occasions, and this is how all of the activities they are going on. So we need to make sure that we need to repeatedly make sure that Afghan Taliban know that it is their responsibility, that they are not going to allow their own land to be used against Pakistan. And if it keeps on happening, then I think very recently Pakistan forces, security forces, they have actually set a precedent in which, of course, we saw that our territorial integrity and sovereignty was challenged from Iranian side, and we replied befittingly to that. And I think this was a sort of precedent set for Afghanistan as well, that they need to make sure that if somebody from within themselves, I will call it and qualify them, the TTP guys, as somebody from their side. Of course, if they are going to do the similar steps, then of course, I see something similar kind of thing might happen in coming future.
Right. Dr. Cheema, Faisal brought up the issue with Iran, and of course we saw that in the aftermath of that there was a lot of effort with regards to cooperation, especially in terms of counterterrorism activities and intelligence sharing that Pakistan has done previously as well. But unfortunately, again, like Afghanistan, we haven't had that kind of response that is needed to ensure that there are no terrorist havens. But I want to know whether or not in the current scenario you think that this is something that has reached a more tangible plan of action for the future. And that we can actually now have a renewed sort of assurance from the Iranian side as well with regards to counterterrorism activities.
Well, I think for the sake of the stability in the country, in the region, I think the Pakistani and Iranian side, they have they have had a good meeting, and particularly when the Iranian foreign minister was here and he met with the army chief. So I think much of the understanding both the countries they reached, and that understanding is that they're going to cooperate, they're going to engage, and they're going to share the information. And for that matter, I think with all that what has happened in the last month, that doesn't mean those non-state actors have eliminated. That doesn't mean that the situation has reversed. The situation on ground is still there, and for that, definitely further cooperation is required. I think communication is the key, which the Iranian side missed, and we reached to that point where which was something very embarrassing for Tehran. So what I believe is that this communication will stay on, and more engagement will be, and that will lead to this solution. And those non-state actors, they are definitely they will be taken care of.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Qamar Cheema, for joining us and being a part of the discussion today with regards to, of course, the security situation in Pakistan and how it's impacting, of course, the elections. And we're going to be talking a little further about the election campaigns as well, and how effectively the political parties have been able to put across that message. But Farrukh, do you think that any of these campaigns have also been impacted with the security threats? We saw different parties, candidates also being attacked, and ECP offices also being attacked. And so do you think that this has put a sort of downer on the campaign?
Right. Again, good question, but the answer is no. These attacks do take place. They have been taking place in the past as well. But what comes to mind is the situation in 2008, 2013, and to an extent 2018 as well. In 2008 and 13, we particularly saw that terrorists were eliminating electoral candidates and party leaders, but political parties kept on actually fighting, and then we saw elections taking place, right? And now Faisal was pointing out that election day is the day of mass mobility. That is so, but that mobility does not take place between cities. It essentially takes place within a constituency. Constituency compared to 2 cities or more than 2 cities is a very small unit. And in constituency, usually they are polling booths or polling stations which are close to your locality. That's why it is not that a big deal. All you have to do is ensure that there are nodal points. Those nodal points are actually secured, safeguarded, right? But remember that even when we fight, our armed forces are people also, and they are also Pakistani citizens. So I am tired of losing so many lives to terrorism, right? And one thing is for sure, now we keep on talking about Afghan Taliban, but the damage is done. They have taken over Afghanistan. This is why I kept on complaining beforehand that if they come, it becomes a difficult proposition to displace them. If they are not displaced, then what do? You keep on succumbing to their pressure and making more compromises, become hostage of their policy. It will be a weird world where that happens. So initially we tried to actually cooperate with them, but then realized that it is not actually going anywhere. People were being killed, policemen were being killed, and that is important to remember. Now what you can do? You can do one, bide your time and wait for history to play its role. Secondly, you can harden the border. Third, of course, you have taken some action against illegal immigrants. Then, of course, you have to have IBOs, more active IBOs, and after that you can root out terrorists. Having said that, political parties, I think, are creatures that keep on fighting no matter what. And so do people of Pakistan. When there was a time when one day there would be terrorist attack, within 2 hours that area would be cleared, and then the entire market would go on like nothing happened, right? Yeah. So we are a boisterous country. Let's hope we overcome this election challenge also.
Absolutely. Faisal, with reference to the election campaigns, of course, that are continuing, different political parties have, of course, been able to put forward their stances and, of course, have been saying one thing or the other in different areas wherever they're rallying and wherever the campaigns are going. But how effective do you think these messages have been? And we'll talk more about the messages themselves as well, but I want to know whether or not they have actually been able to reach the audience, whatever it is that they're saying, but in terms of who they're targeting and what the message that they want to put across, is that being received, and which party do you think has been the most successful in doing that?
Sana, obviously, you know, if we talk about the current elections, every day, I mean, it is part of my routine that I make few calls in the rural areas and make few calls in the urban areas, even Karachi as well. I keep on, you know, asking my closest of friends who are present there to know further what is going on in terms of you know, election campaigns, and I do ask about different political parties. If we talk about the urban areas, let's say Karachi. Of course, Karachi was quite busy in terms of clearing off the waters, the rain waters. Yesterday we saw there was a problem in certain areas, and then of course when we come towards different parties, MQM, they are you know, doing their campaigns, door-to-door campaigns are involved, and then of course they had previously the sectors they are you know, doing their political campaigns out there, and it is you know, at its full swing. People's Party, of course, they have very strong candidates within Karachi as well. Saeed Ghani is one of them, and his political campaign is at its full swing. And if we talk about the PTI, PTI's trusted candidate, of course, there is one Alamgir Khan. He's outside, and he's known for certain other you know, campaigns as well, especially
social campaigns.
Yeah, social campaigns. Fix It was his campaign, we remember. He has been working since a long time, and he's a known face in Karachi itself. He's leading the campaign for in the absence of course, their leader Sheikh. He's inside the jail, so obviously he's Alamgir Khan is leading in Karachi. If we come towards, you know, interior Sindh, of course we know that People's Party, with years of politics, they have championed when it comes to the interior Sindh politics and how to campaign out there. They have been very successful in all of the elections, and of course they are going to be, you know, having a momentum in there as well. GDA, they are playing their role as well in interior Sindh as well. Coming towards the South Punjab and Punjab itself, from South Punjab, of course, people are very vibrant out there, and there are a couple of you know, journalists from there. I did talk to them, and they were saying that I mean, in previous times, as we saw that, you know, different candidates, they used to go for the slogans that in coming future, we will, once we get the power, we will be going for separating South Punjab from Punjab itself. Now it's not that, it is entirely different, and on ground situation is very different in terms of you know, it is more of a nationalistic approach voters are going for. It's the same is the case with the
what is nationalistic approach?
Nationalistic approach, rather than, you know, sticking to one slogan, they have been sticking throughout all of the previous elections that they want their own province. Rather than that
was never an issue there. Never.
No. They have been.
My domicile is from there. I can tell you that common man doesn't vote on the provincial identity issue.
Yeah, identity issues they had, but of course this time around they are obviously going for inflation. The concerns are inflation and who should be coming on the top. That is their concern, and what kind of government they want.
So how is that nationalistic? Inflation is economic.
Okay. It is more of a federal kind of you know, federal aspect of thought.
Nice save. Nice save. I knew where you are going with this, but okay.
And if we come towards, you know, the real ring of fight is Lahore. when it comes to, of course, whatever
Finally, he
is going
reaches
on. Because of course, Bilawal Bhutto is contesting from there. Then, of course, we know that the leadership of PMLN, they are there as well. There are quite a few big names, obviously, supported by PTI. The voters are supporting them. Salman Akram Raja is one of them, of course, and then Khosa Saab is the other one. And majority of the Lateef Khosa Saab. Yeah, Lateef Khosa Saab is
the
from
guy who was fired from by PTI as their lawyer.
Yeah, yeah,
He was fired, you know.
yeah,
that,
yeah. And there is obviously another young face, Ali Ijaz Buttar. He's actually contesting election from there as well, and he is contesting against Abdul Aleem Khan, which is looked at as the sort of contest in Lahore itself. So there are so many names.
But Faisal, I think you very cleverly moved around the periphery of my question. You haven't really actually answered what I'd asked you before, and whatever you've said is valid, but I'm going to reiterate what I've asked. I want to know, how effective do you think parties have been in putting across their message, and which party has been the most successful?
Effective. PMLN, of course, they have been very effective when it comes to reaching out to people. They have been going to KPK. They have been.
Thank you for actually saying that. You have given me an excellent comment.
Throughout,
I'm going to actually
throughout Punjab, of course, they have been going to their jalsas and rallies and everything, and they have been, vibrant about it, and almost they have covered all of Punjab in terms of reaching out to people, because there are more than one leaders within the family. So that is why they know where somebody can go and the next person should be going elsewhere, and that is what they are doing. And if we talk about People's Party, they have been doing the similar steps as well. They have been taking the similar steps. But when it comes to, of course, PTI, they
another save.
Really, Faisal asked, which party is the most successful? You have to name one.
In terms of who's
most effective in whatever they're saying. You may disagree with what they're saying.
In terms of what age group we are talking about, if we are talking about the youngsters, I mean, they are very lazy when it comes to going out for jalsas.
Not at all.
Youngsters are sticking to TikToks and sticking to X. Twitter,
and the youngsters, might be, but not everyone. No, come
on. My age group, of course, is laid back and relaxed, and
you call yourself a youngster? Okay.
Okay, I think that's the problem. You're actually
I'm a baby.
That same question to you, Farrukh, with regards to political parties.
Sana, first of all, you will give me the
luxury
of commenting on what Faisal has been doing, right? When you were talking about attacking the peripheries or moving around peripheries, I was thinking, because Faisal believes in the Indian wisdom also, and he keeps on talking about history. Yeah. So I thought that there was this guy called Kautilya Chanakya, who wrote Arthashastra, and he was actually advisor to Chandragupta Maurya. He actually came up with the idea of rice bowl stratagem, that always attack the peripheries, so that because of swift losses, the heartland becomes demoralized. Then you can attack heartland. So Faisal kept on doing that with us. He was, but by the way, he also gave you a very interesting instinct that was flagged, and that was when you talked about all these matters. He started by talking about what he thinks are the damsels in distress, right? He talked about People's Party in Karachi, then he talked about MQM contending People's Party in Sindh, and then he talked about GDA. Then from there, he immediately went to Southern Punjab, again, traditionally one stronghold of People's Party. So one thing that I saw at the start of these campaigns was one survey where people were asked, who is your number one candidate? And then the same people were asked, what is your number two candidate? And amazingly, people who actually mentioned Imran Khan as their number one candidate, their second choice was Nawaz Sharif. Now, this was something that was like totally not understandable to me, right? And I thought that they keep on, they are totally at loggerheads, and in Punjab it seems that these are the two counterweights, right? They keep on attacking each other. What exactly is going on? Then somebody from People's Party said that their hostility, mutual hostility, is hostility in exile. Their actual enemy is People's Party, right? So the vote can be interchangeable between the two. When you asked again, emphasized, Faisal, tell me which one party is effective in communication. The first name was PMLN, right? So again, you have to realize this interchangeability of voter who actually instinctively loathe People's Party, because a lot of propaganda has gone on for 30 years against People's Party in Punjab, right? And because of that, of course, when he talks about Lahore and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, every pundit is saying that Bilawal will not be able to win the Lahore seat. Having said that, I think communication, there are two very different kind of sets. PMLN has come up with its advertisements, which are very good. They have humor, they have everything, right? The edge. But then you listen to their speeches at Jalsas, and what are they talking about? Their platform is their past performance. They are saying that we have done it before, we will do it again. Now, another political party, that is People's Party. When you listen to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's speeches, you see a kind of town hall kind of speech where he is actually explaining his platform. He's talking about various aspects of it. And this is because instinctively pundits in Punjab keep on underplaying this aspect. The guy actually goes on for hours and hours, right? And he has, mashallah, great energy. The biggest problem is whenever you ignore or underplay it out of bias, you can be surprised by that man. Now, let us talk about PTI. PTI's platforms are not being made evident through Jalsas, but their press conferences, particularly their chairmans, right? And in that, all I hear is the politics of victimhood, and that is also a legitimate, platform. But with due respect, when you talk about resonating, something is resonating with the people, I think PMLN has the good record, right? And People's Party has energy of a young leader. So these two are not comparable, but both are very effective.
All right.
Sana,
yes.
Obviously earlier Farrukh said that, people are going for either Imran Khan or if not him, then
I mentioned the survey.
His worst, as he himself considers worst for Nawaz Sharif. So there is no middle lane. I mean, I think people don't believe in the middle lanes. Either they are on the right lane or very slow lane.
No, there is no left, no?
Yeah.
Now, the only party that used to be a leftist party, that was People's Party, now it is center left.
Yeah.
So the rest are right and further right.
And this actually was my next question, Farrukh, with regards to how these parties are identifying themselves. And there was this aspect of which party is center, left and right that was circulating on social media. And I was wondering how exactly have they actually analyzed that and formed the basis of that, and whether or not the parties even agree that they identify themselves like that. So if we look at our major political parties, what really are they representing?
Do you really want to hear the answer?
Yes.
For 5 years when PTI, actually 4 years when PTI was in power, PMLN kept on criticizing it for being hard right, or for that matter, ultra-nationalist, right? And the only thing that changed between that time and Shehbaz Sharif taking over was change of face, right? Party change. But the narrative has remained the same. Now PMLN is telling you that all it was worried about or was cribbing about was PTI's existence, not the platform that they were actually championing. So at this moment, PMLN, their Balochistan policy is the same. Their counter-terrorism worldview is the same. Their economic platforms are more or less the same, right? People's Party is different, but unfortunately, People's Party will have to work a lot when it comes to handling the economy, because in economy, both these parties, first PMLN and then PTI, have great inroads. So People's Party will be at bay there. But right now, it seems that whatever PTI championed, or for that matter, PMLN championed before them, PMLN is exactly championing the same thing.
Right.
Now.
So yes.
Yeah,
Do the parties even agree with this? Is what I want to understand. How
I
how are
mean,
the parties
I
representing
mean,
themselves?
no, hang on. If you were criticizing, channels or, anchors being pulled out, pulled off air, right? And now you're justifying that. If you were criticizing operations or something in Balochistan, and now you're justifying it, right? If you were actually complaining about your leaders being victimized, and now you're justifying whatever is happening to your opponents, then tell me, do you need to actually agree with anything in principle? You're
Right.
doing the same thing. You have become the PTI, or PTI became the PMLN. This is what I'm saying. They're interchangeable. For voters, there's small difference.
Okay.
Of course, they had better performance in the past, so they will actually bank on it. But right now, I don't see much difference.
Right. Faisal, you
Yes,
wanted to add
Sana, I
something?
just wanted to highlight about PTI. It has always been considered as it is considered as far right? But at the same time, it is the very party. Of course, this party has the most nominations of candidates that are female, and very recently I've attended one of the sessions of
When? In 2018 or now?
now 8% of their candidates, 8%. I mean, it is mandatory for all of the political parties to have at least 5% of candidates in for direct elections,
Yeah.
the females. But rest of all, they have 4.1, the maximum.
But my dear
people's-
sir, the compliment does not go to PTI, it goes to their worker who are women,
Yeah.
that they did not flee when men were actually fleeing.
See,
But
that's what I
hang
was
on,
about to say.
But it is majboori ka naam shukriya.
They
Whatever you
consider-
got.
Yeah, they consider themselves.
Whether
they
or not
consider-
one variable can actually make that difference, because the rest
Yeah.
of it is
Yeah.
And
They-
secondly,
they,
Faisal
they
actually
consider themselves, and obviously everyone classes them as
okay, far right does,
far right.
no, far right has no conflict with women participation.
No conflict in that context, but of course when
Jamaat Islami has women as candidates.
when we talking about Pakistan being Islamic Republic of Pakistan, then of course far right in Islamic Republic of Pakistan means that there will be conservatism within the party, which is not seen in that party at all. And
okay, hang on. Many people complain about PTI actually tapping on opportunistic aspect of right-wing support.
Yeah.
But nobody has ever complained that they are conservatives.
yeah, but I think-
Conservatism becomes a virtue here, that they are not called conservative.
right. That's all that we have time for. Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us as always. But we'll be talking about the political parties and, of course, what they're representing and what stances they're putting forward, and who is going to be, of course, putting forward their messages and the promises they're making to the public, and whether or not they're actually going to be working towards achieving them post-elections. But we're going to be talking about that later on. That's the end of the show today. We'll now see you tomorrow.